Judge orders, veteran to return, Medal of Honor, the aftermath, changes. Everything, he walked slowly through the courthouse corridor, an old man with trembling legs and tired eyes that had seen more battles than anyone in that building could ever. Imagine his name was William Carter, a decorated veteran who once stood fearless in the face of enemies, now struggling to stand tall under the weight of humiliation he never expected. In the twilight of his life, a courtroom summons had arrived, commanding him to return the most sacred symbol of his courage, his Medal of Honor, the very medal he had earned in a war that almost took his life away, the medal that meant more to him than any possession, family memory, or recognition could ever replace. People were whispering as he approached the courtroom door, wondering how someone like him, a war hero, could possibly be ordered to give back a medal that symbolized bravery and sacrifice. But rumors had surfaced that there were irregularities in his war story, evidence that perhaps he had not been the one who saved his platoon during the ambush in the deep jungle. Tales spread like wildfire that another soldier had died performing the true act of heroism. You could feel the tension heavier than the air itself as he entered the courtroom where reporters flashed cameras eager to witness his downfall. No one knew the truth. Not yet. Not even the judge, who sat staring down with cold eyes, ready to deliver judgment without understanding. The price paid in blood, sweat, and memories that haunted William nightly for decades. William kept his head high, though every step felt like a mountain climbed through fire. In his mind, he could still hear soldiers screaming, bullets buzzing past, helicopters roaring, and his own voice shouting commands in the chaos of war. He could still feel the hands of the young men. He rescued men who cried for their mothers while he dragged them through mud soaked in fear and pain. But they made it because of him. And that medal was the reminder that in the worst moment of their lives, he did not abandon them. He saved them. On the witness stand stood a government official, a stern, sharp-faced man waving classified documents claiming that an investigation revealed exaggerated reports about the mission, that William did not act alone, that the true heroism belonged to a soldier named Daniel Phillips, who died in combat before receiving recognition, and that William, knowing this, never corrected the records. The official implied that William embraced the honor of another man. The courtroom gasped at the accusation, but William did not flinch. He had expected this and more, because he knew he could not reveal the real truth, not without breaking a sacred promise he made long ago to someone who could no longer speak for themselves. As the judge listed the grounds of reclaiming the Medal of Honor, words became a blur in William's mind. He thought of Daniel Phillips, his friend, his brother, and arms his sacrifice stronger than any heroic tale they would ever record. William remembered Daniel grabbing the falling grenade, pushing William away, and taking the explosion full force. William lived because Daniel chose to die. William received the medal because the commanders believed he had led the move that saved the entire group. But the truth was that Daniel was the real savior. And yet Daniel had whispered a final request before breathing his last breaths. Do not tell them what I did, Will. The world needs heroes, and you will be one. The unit needs to believe in something greater than death. I want them to survive and move forward with pride, not grief. Let the medal go to someone who can wear it and live its meaning. Those words, carved into William's soul like an eternal wound, he honored Daniel's wish, never correcting the official story, hoping that wearing that medal would keep Daniel's memory alive as a hidden truth that only he carried deep within his heart. William knew returning the medal meant losing the last piece of Daniel he had left, but if he revealed the truth, people would question Daniel's intention and twist his final request into something selfish instead of seeing the beauty of his sacrifice. So he remained silent, sacrificing himself when the world wanted to tear him down. The judge slammed the gavel, demanding that William surrender the medal immediately. It felt like the court itself had torn his heart from his chest. The bailiff approached, Waiting to take the medal away, cameras swarmed to capture every moment of disgrace. People leaned in, holding their breaths, anticipating the collapse of a hero who could no longer hide behind glory. But William did not break. Instead, he reached into his coat pocket, pulling out a small velvet box, his hands shaking, not from age but from the crushing weight of grief. Inside the box lay the Medal of Honor, gleaming with memories of a battlefield he could not forget. He stared at it for a moment, in silence, remembering the last smile Daniel ever gave him, a smile stained with dirt blood and friendship. Reporters waited for a reaction, maybe tears, maybe anger, maybe denial. But what William did next stunned everyone. He turned not toward the bailiff but toward the gallery where several young soldiers sat in their uniforms. They were there to witness what could become a symbolic moment in military history, a warning to those who might fabricate deeds, but instead they saw something profoundly different. He held the medal up high in his hand like a beacon of truth and resilience before walking to the youngest soldier, among them a boy barely of age, his eyes wide, unsure what was happening. William placed the medal gently into his hands, telling him with a soft voice that shook every heart in the room, "It is not the medal that makes a hero. It is the courage to carry the sacrifices of others and never let their memory fade." Gasps filled the courtroom. The judge glared furious that his authority had been defied. William raised his voice, filled with strength that surprised even himself, saying he would rather see the medal in the hands of the future than locked away in darkness and shame. Reporters scrambled to capture his words. People began whispering that maybe, just maybe, they were wrong about him. Maybe the truth was deeper than the files shown in court. Maybe there was more to this man than what accusations painted, but there were also those whose motives were darker, who saw an opportunity in tearing apart a reputation built on honor, people who desired headlines rather than truth. They fired more questions at him: why he refused to explain himself, why he would not clear his name, why he protected lies. William did not respond because his silence protected something far more valuable than his own dignity. It protected the memory of a fallen brother and the unspoken code between soldiers forged in fire, blood, and loyalty. The judge declared contempt. Of court security rushed in to restrain him, but the young soldier holding the medal stepped forward, saying, William had earned the right to speak, earned the right to be respected, earned more than what that courtroom could ever take from him soon. Voices rose around the room defending him. Strangers inspired by his quiet strength. People began to witness a story unfolding that was bigger than one medal or one courtroom hearing as chaos spread. William was escorted out of the building, the cold wind hitting his face. Yet he felt strangely free. He looked up at the sky, imagining Daniel somewhere up there watching. Maybe even smiling. He had lost the medal today, but he feared something worse was coming because the judgment today was only the beginning. There were whispers of a deeper investigation, one that might try to destroy every memory of his service, every honor, every life he saved. And William knew that the darkest battle of his life was still ahead, a battle not against soldiers, but against doubt, corruption, and the rewriting of history. Walking down the courthouse steps, his mind raced with dread. He felt eyes watching not just reporters or curious strangers, but someone else, someone who knew the real truth and did not want it to ever be revealed. And as he reached his car, he saw a folded paper slipped under the windshield wiper. It was a message that froze him to the bone. A message written in shaky, familiar handwriting, the kind he remembered from long ago. It read, only 4 chilling words. I know the truth. Judge orders, veteran to return, Medal of Honor. The aftermath changes everything. William stood frozen in place, staring at the note on his car windshield, the words rattling inside his mind like bullets. The handwriting tugged at buried memories, ones he wished had stayed locked away forever. He looked over his shoulder, scanning the crowd, Cameras, flashes, strangers shouting questions, police guiding people away. Yet among all these faces, none seemed capable of leaving a message that threatened to expose a truth only two people had ever known, and one of them had died on the battlefield years ago. His insides tightened as he slid into his car, gripping the steering wheel, his hands trembling not from age but from fear. Memories of Daniel flooded his thoughts again and again. Daniel had been the only one who knew the real truth. So how could someone else claim to know who was behind this message, and what did they want from him? William knew he could not go home, not now, so he drove aimlessly through the streets until he reached a quiet lake where he and Daniel once went fishing after the war to escape the chaos of civilian life. The water shimmered under the gray sky, reflecting his doubts with brutal honesty. His heart weighed heavy with the reality that the accusations against him were only the first strike in a war that had just begun. He took out the note again, studying every curve of the letters. Suddenly, he felt the presence of someone behind him, a woman with sharp, determined eyes, military posture, and a sense of familiarity, though he could not place her. She spoke quietly, calling him Sergeant Carter, her voice cold. Yet respectful, she introduced herself as Agent Lisa Collins, from a classified branch of military intelligence. She said the government had reopened an old file, a file sealed since the war one, that involved Daniel Phillips, not just as a soldier, but as part of a covert operation that was never supposed to be revealed to the public. William felt his chest tighten, because those words mirrored the dark truth he had spent years protecting. Daniel had not been just a brave soldier, he had been part of a mission that involved retrieving sensitive intelligence, one so dangerous that higher officials had decided to bury everything, including Daniel's. True heroism, Agent Collins told William that Daniel's family believed the military had lied to them about how their son died. They believed William carried secrets buried under the cover of honor and medals. They wanted answers, and someone in that family had sent that note. William realized someone close to Daniel had discovered hints of the classified truth, and now they were searching for the full story. Tears pricked his eyes, but he held them back because soldiers do not cry in front of strangers, especially strangers who could destroy everything he had spent decades preserving. The agent warned him that refusing to cooperate could result in criminal charges that would ruin what remained of his life. She said, powerful people wanted the full truth exposed, no matter the cost. William listened silently, then asked her a single question: what would happen to Daniel's legacy if the truth came out? Agent Collins did not respond. At first she hesitated, and that silence told him everything. Exposing the mission would dishonor Daniel instead of honoring him, turning his sacrifice into a pawn in a political war. William knew he could not allow that to happen. As the agent walked away, she left him with a file number telling him to prepare for interrogation soon. Once she disappeared behind the trees, William finally allowed his emotions to surface. Tears fell into his palms as he whispered Daniel's name, asking silently for guidance. He felt like an old soldier trapped again behind enemy lines, except this time there was no battlefield map, no radio, no backup, only memories and threats and ghosts that refused to rest. The sun dipped low, turning the lake dark. William returned to his small home. Feeling eyes on him the entire drive, he kept checking the rearview mirror, convinced someone was following. He reached his front door, pausing to take a breath before pushing it open. Inside, everything seemed normal. Yet he could feel something off, like the air itself felt invaded. He turned on the light and saw nothing disturbed. But when he walked into the living room, a chill hit him. The family photographs that once sat proudly on the mantel were now turned face down, every single one of them. The sight froze his blood because it was no random act. Someone knew exactly where to strike him. Someone wanted fear to sit in, his heart like a ticking bomb before he could move. A knock echoed through the house. Quick, urgent, William grabbed an old cane, not just for support, but for defense. He opened the door slightly, and a young woman practically collapsed into his arms, her clothes soaked with rain, breathing heavy eyes, red as though she had been crying for hours. He guided her inside, confused, asking who she was. But she did not answer right away. Instead, she stared at him as if he were a ghost. She finally said, her name Emily Phillips Daniels' daughter. His heart dropped like a stone into an endless pit. Emily said she had found documents in her uncle's basement files, hidden since her father's death letters, that hinted at classified operations and a link to William Carter. She had followed him from the courthouse, fearing someone else would get to him first. She told William she was the one who left the note, because she needed him to understand. She was searching not for revenge, but for the full truth about her father's sacrifice. She believed the government stole her father's recognition and gave it to William. Instead, she wanted justice. She wanted his courage to be known properly. William felt her pain, like a knife twisting deeper, because she deserved answers. But the truth was too dangerous, too heavy for anyone to carry, especially the daughter of a man who had given his life for secrecy. He made tea for her as she continued describing how men in suits had visited her family years ago, warning them never to ask questions, threatening them indirectly by saying speaking out would lead to consequences. She believed those same people had restarted the investigation, and now they were watching her. Watching William, too. She admitted she feared for her life. William listened to every word, torn between the duty to protect Daniel's legacy and the responsibility to give his daughter the closure she needed. He promised her he would explain everything soon, but not here. Not until he was sure. No one was listening. Late that night, after Emily slept on the couch exhausted, William paced the room, thinking back to the battlefield where Daniel died, thinking about the encrypted messages Daniel once carried strapped to his chest, thinking about the promise to never reveal the mission. William realized that if he stayed silent, both he and Emily could die without the truth ever surfacing in the right way. He had to find someone he could trust, someone from the old unit, someone who knew a piece of the truth, someone who could help protect Emily from the dark forces emerging from the shadows. He quietly stepped outside to make a call from a public payphone. Blocks away, his fingers dialed a number he had memorized decades ago. A number he swore he would never use unless absolutely necessary. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a gruff voice answered immediately, recognizing William calling him by his old radio code name, Ghost Eagle. William told the voice 3 words that sent chills across miles of distance. The mission lives on. There was silence. Then the voice warned him to stay where he was because they were coming for him. Not tomorrow, not next week, but tonight. William hung up, rushing back home faster than his old legs wanted to move. He burst inside, calling Emily's name, but she was no longer on the couch. Instead, she stood near the window looking out, whispering that a black SUV had been parked outside for the last 10 minutes, with no one stepping out. William's heart thundered because the enemy had arrived earlier than he expected. He grabbed Emily's arm, leading her to the back of the house, turning off the lights, telling her not to make a sound. Footsteps approached from the front porch. Forceful, deliberate. Someone tried the door handle. Then another loud knock shook the wood. A voice ordered them to open immediately. William shielded Emily behind him, praying that the backup he contacted would reach them before the door gave in, because the danger was real, and the night was far from over. The handle rattled again, then suddenly silence, which was more terrifying than the knock. The air thickened, tension rising as William listened, waiting, breathing slowly, knowing that whatever came next would decide their fate. And as the floorboard creaked outside the living room, he tightened his grip on the cane, ready to face the unknown. Once more, like the soldier, he would always be judge, orders veteran to return, Medal of Honor. The aftermath. Changes. Everything. The silence outside the house stretched on like a wire pulled tight, ready to snap at any moment. William held his breath, his ears tuned to every tiny sound Emily clutched. His sleeve eyes filled with terror. The creak came again, heavier this time, as if boots pressed down on the wooden porch. Methodical, determined. They were inside enemy territory again. Except this battlefield was his own living room, and the enemy was unseen but dangerously close. He felt his heartbeat drill. Against his ribs, time slowing like in the worst moments of war where every second felt like a lifetime, asking him to choose survive or surrender. Then suddenly the window on the right shattered, spraying glass across the floor, dark figures in tactical gear stormed inside with weapons raised. William pushed Emily behind the old wooden table and swung his cane, hitting the nearest intruder with surprising strength, years of combat instinct rushing back like a fire reignited. The man stumbled, but more poured in, shouting orders to detain William Carter. He tried to shield Emily, but they grabbed her, dragging her away. Her scream piercing through the chaos. William roared in anger, swinging again until a hard strike from a rifle slammed against his shoulder, sending him falling to the floor. Pain exploding through his arm, they pinned him down, tying his wrists behind him while he struggled helplessly, watching Emily being forced out the door, begging them not to hurt her in the midst of struggle. Headlights flashed and screeched to a halt outside. The front door swung open and another armed group entered, but this time shots rang out their aim, precise and controlled. William knew instantly who had arrived, Ghost Eagle. Allies, men from the Shadow's old war brothers who never forgot their oath. The room erupted into combat, old soldiers against modern operatives, fists, gunfire, and smoke filling every corner. William crawled toward the door, desperate to reach Emily, but his body did not move fast enough. When the fight ended, 2 intruders lay unconscious, and the rest had vanished into the night, taking Emily with them. William, breathing hard, leaned against the wall, his heart aching not just from injury, but from fear that Emily was now trapped in the same deadly secret that took Daniel's life. His old comrade Lucas Grant approached him, helping him stand. Lucas' eyes hardened by years of secret missions told William that a powerful faction within military intelligence had always wanted to bury Daniel mission permanently, and the resurfacing of this case threatened to expose a conspiracy that could shake the foundations of national security. The more William fought to protect Daniels,